Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Season Ticket Holders. I'm your host, Dane Lillingston, and we have a favourite son returning again for his second appearance. He is a reporter with the Australian Associate Press, a Penrith Panthers fanatic, quizmaster extraordinaire, movie buff, and a very proud New South Wales supporter, Jasper Bruce. Welcome back to the show, mate. How are you?
It's nice to get an Origin recall a week after Origin. It's what it feels like. But no, yeah, I'm glad to be back here, and I'm a proud New South Welshman, and no prouder than at the moment, Dane.
Yeah, I didn't really want to have you on, Jasper, but just for the sake of objectivity for the podcast, I thought it'd only be fair. And you and I did spend a lot of time with the team in the lead up at Kingscliff. We were embedded in camp, doing daily presses in the week leading up to Origin 3. Just firstly, that experience, give us an insight, like what it was like for us just being there. That was a cool experience for us to witness that too, right?
That was great. I'd never been to Kingscliff either, which I know that's not the
Beautiful.
main thing to get excited about. Here we had a lot of professional stuff to get excited about, following the team around for a week. But Kingscliff is a place. It made me want to go back there just as a punter. And we did. I think you and I did the demoralizing thing that you do when you're on holidays and you get out the Domain or the realestate.com.au app and check, like, if I wasn't a sports journalist and I could live somewhere like this in a magical alternate reality, how much would that cost me? And then you snap back to reality pretty quickly when you do that in a place like Kingscliff. Pretty nice. And yeah, the actual work side of it was fantastic as well. Really nice to get a sort of closer insight. I mean, we have something of an insight in our day-to-day at work, going out to press conferences and watching a lot of games and things like that, into what preparation entails for the NRL. But to be able to be a bit up closer, and for a State of Origin campaign, no less, like that was great. I'd never been in camp before, so yeah, just to be in the hallway saying hi to people, having chats you otherwise normally wouldn't have as a journo from that side of things, really valuable, and yeah, a good squad of people up there too, yourself included, Dan.
Oh, thank you very much, mate. A Queenslander too. An area way above our pay grade. Definitely no journalists, I imagine, living in Kingscliff, Jasper. I doubt it.
I don't think so.
But it was awesome, like you said, to rub shoulders with everyone. There was a bunch of kids always in the lobby waiting to get all the players, which was pretty cool, in their Blues jerseys, and the players were always receptive, taking photos, that type of thing. So it was cool to see it from that point of view. I hadn't personally really seen it like that at all, but that was a really awesome experience, and Kingscliff was amazing. Definitely checked out all the local pubs as well. But on to Origin, mate. I left you before Game 3, and I'm really thankful that I did leave the New South Wales media scrum. I did not want to see the drivel that would have come out of there, but we've had a few days now, soak it in. New South Wales pulls off the great escape in Queensland, the same thing that the Maroons have been doing for decades now. Win a decider at Suncorp as underdogs, with even their own fan base and most of the media completely writing them off, right, Jasper? I remember being in the office on Wednesday, not a single person at Fox Sports News really thought they were like, Queensland's going to put a score on them, that type of thing. I was a little bit more like, I think it's going to be a closer game than a lot of people are tipping. It is State of Origin. It is a decider. I was very chirpy, which is unlike me on Wednesday. Chirpy after the game, but not chirpy before the game. I had to really eat humble pie on Thursday. I got absolutely railed in the office. We all know what happens. I should have known better, because it's not the Queensland way to be like that, Jasper. It just is not to be chirpy, to be like that. And it feels like we were the better team. It feels like we were the better team out throughout the whole series. And it feels like the series that got away for us as a Queenslander. Your thoughts on the game?
Now you know how it felt in 2020 for us, and actually a lot of series before and since 2020.
True, yeah.
It was a funny one, because I think even the most ardent of Blues fans didn't give them much of a hope, and it's telling when you talk to people, and it's almost like they can't even make a case for how New South Wales were going to win the game. I mean, short of Nathan Cleary being amazing, which is kind of what did happen in the end, it was difficult for people to go, they don't have the yardage of Toto, but maybe Bostock will step up. Like, there was a lot of uncertainty, not even about their ability to win. Well, there was certainty that they weren't going to win the game, and uncertainty about if they were, what they would even look like. Because, like you say, I think Queensland certainly were the better team across the first two games, and probably they sit around and go, gee, if Kalen Ponga doesn't jam his shoulder into Tolu Kola's head in game one, then probably we're not even getting to a decider. So, yeah, the actual game, I was reflecting the other day about the 2024 decider, which again, a win up in Suncorp, always a tough place to go for any New South Wales team. But it was really interesting to think about the two and just how different the results were. I actually watched that game. I was overseas covering the Sail GP at the time. I did a bit of traveling afterwards, and I was in a hotel room in Wyoming, and I got up at 4 a.m. to watch that game. And I remember thinking of it as a bit of a grind at the time, and that sort of scrap for everything you get style Origin game that we all love. And I think that one's gone down as a New South Wales classic. But this one probably will for a different reason, where it was just, I don't want to say a procession, that's maybe a little strong, but from the start you just had the sense that New South Wales turned up in a way that they often don't, to be honest. And short of those couple of bomb tries early on the wings, which luckily didn't end up haunting them too much, it felt like it was New South Wales' foot on the throat for most of that game. There was that moment in the second half where there's the kick through. I think it was from Sam Walker. Rob Toyer scores, and it's pulled back for that obstruction with Max Plapp in front of the kicker. That was probably the moment where it felt like Queensland, they could have been one score behind there. Suddenly it's like, oh no, here we go. They're going to do it, aren't they? They're going to pull it out of the fire. But, when that was chalked off and Cleary, they got up the other end and Cleary kicks a penalty goal pretty soon after that, I kind of, I think pretty much everyone in this state saw what was happening and kind of had to pick their jaw up off the floor because yeah, I didn't expect that, and the way that first half unfolded, Nathan Cleary just owning Origin once and
Finally.
for all, and finally we can put that tired cliche to bed about his inability to do that, and yeah, just a week on, almost a week on now, still kind of processing what we saw, and I think it's the kind of game we'll remember for a very, very long time.
Unfortunately, but you are right, and shell shock from both sides, right? Shell shock
Mm,
from New South Wales looking at that performance, and shell shock from a Queensland point of view that thought this was our crowning achievement. It's not a formality, but just that they would go out there, do the same thing in front of 52,000 at Suncorp, get the job done, and then we're down 18-0 in the blink of an eye
yeah.
in that first half. It's absolutely crazy. They get one back to get a bit of respectability heading into half time, and to me, and I'll read you the tweet that I got flamed for a lot, or X, that I put this, very passionate in the moment after the game. I said, this was post-game. Horrible calls have ruined this series. Queensland robbed in game one, and now everything goes against them in game three. Bostock definitely touched it. I have softened a little bit since then, but I do. I got some hate. I stopped looking at the comments. I actually reported a comment, and Twitter said, or X
Wow.
said, we don't care about it. Apparently, you can say whatever you want, mate. But I did feel about that because we know what happened with Ashley Kine in game one, the send off of Kalen Ponga. We've talked about it at length. But that game three, the deciding moment, Bradman best try, that made it 24-8. Jack Bostock definitely touched it in the lead up, right, Jasper? You can agree with me on this?
Well, the NRL's come out and said that. I think at the time, I mean, it's funny because in the press box, you're almost in the worst position for those sorts of moments at Suncorp
Mm.
Stadium because you're really perched up high there in the stadium. You're kind of trying to look between the Nine Now stream on your laptop and the big screen in Suncorp Stadium, which is several meters outside that window, to try and get a look at it. In that situation, I thought there wasn't a touch because you kind of you're a little compromised there in your ability to see that. But I mean, the NRL's come out and said no, like there was a little touch there. So I mean, does it change the end result? Oh, maybe not. I don't think. I mean, it's a great try from Bradman Best that it leads directly to, but yeah, I mean, those are big moments and those are big calls, right? And you can understand the frustration. I think Cameron Smith going out on the front foot and saying, if we're going to have this technology, we need to know how to use it, or we need to not have it. And I think that's probably a sentiment that plenty of Queenslanders share. And I think people south of the border as well can probably admit that one maybe fell in New South Wales' favour. And it's all part of the origin fabric, isn't it? These dramatic calls, Dan.
It was when we had game one headline from it. Then this one, obviously, New South Wales wins, and the way they won 30-12 in the end, you sort of forget about these calls unless
Yeah.
you're a Queenslander. That made it 24-8. Then you mentioned that moment before, it was 24-12. They had that try disallowed. It could have been 24-18. I was jumping up and down at the Marrickville
Yeah.
Tavern. Someone was going to take my head off. I was extremely excited. I thought, we are on here. Queensland are going to come back and pull off a miraculous comeback. And that gets called back, and then we all know what happened next. Losing at Suncorp again. Has the aura gone? That's 3 in a row at Brisbane, right? I was there at the 2024 decider. There's no longer feared. We asked a few of the questions of the players in the lead up. I know they don't really buy into narratives. This is something the media likes to do at
Mm.
Suncorp. But going up there and doing it, I know Queensland's had a decent record at a core, and Sydney the last few years as well. But is that aura of the cauldron gone, the famous Wally Lewis days and all that? They come up here now. They've done it twice at deciders in a row.
Yeah, the first time that that's ever been achieved, the back-to-back decider wins at Suncorp, 3 games in a row in total. So the
Crazy.
last 3 series, which is it's funny to say, isn't it? Because you think of it as this fortress, and I know certainly growing up, I'm of an age where didn't see too many New South Wales wins in terms of series wins growing up in that dynasty. And yeah, I tried to ask Isaiah Yeo a question to that effect in the post-match press conference, sort of saying, yeah, it has the fear factor gone out of this place because you come up here and you win, the last 3 games. He didn't really bite on it, which surprise, surprise, he's very diplomatic, Isaiah Yeo. But yeah, look, I think that it somewhat has, right? And it's funny because it's kind of gone out of it. But I think Queensland have still been a formidable opposition in those 3 series. It's if someone had said to you, "Oh, New South Wales are going to win 3 games in Queensland in a row, 2 of those will be decided," you go, "Oh, well, it must be a crap Queensland team that have got nothing going for them." But I don't think that's been the reality, right? I think
No,
Queensland
not
were
at all.
en masse were the better team this series. They certainly were last series. And 2024, it's that brutal decider that we mentioned before. So yeah, I mean, I think it's always a tough place to play for New South Wales, but when you talk to the players in the lead up, they they talked about how you can maybe try and use and weaponize that enemy territory stuff. We know Queensland's so good at the underdog stuff. Well, when when Suncorp has that reputation of being a tough place to play, that's a place where New South Wales can back themselves into a corner and use that. So maybe the fact that it's a tough place to play has made it an easy place to play. Make it
Uh,
make sense.
I get what you mean. Well, I could tell you my experience growing up watching football too. When it was State of Origin, mate, and this is before we used to take a game to Melbourne, to Adelaide, to Perth, to New
Yeah,
Zealand next year. If you had 2 games that year, you were liking your chances because that's how big the
100%.
home. You know what I mean? That was like the
Yeah,
big thing. If you looked at the draw next year, you know that Queensland had to play 2 in Sydney. You're like, shit, like this is going to be tough.
yeah.
But it's just not the case in the modern game. Now we do the thing where there's a neutral third ground. They like to play that in game 2. And so that's really gone out the window. And I think this could actually be the complete death of it now. Seeing this
Wow.
now at Suncorp, I think this is the death of any home ground advantage in Origin. It just doesn't exist anymore. I think that's what the reality is. It's true. Queensland comes up to Sydney or comes down to Sydney now. It's not feared. New South Wales goes up there. It's the same thing. I think all that, it has gone out the window. It's dead. It's dead home ground advantage, Jasper, in State of Origin. I'm calling it now, all right?
Maybe we need to relocate the teams so that Queensland's home state is now New South Wales, and New South Wales' home state is Queensland, and therefore New South Wales playing in Sydney will hold fear factor the way that playing in Brisbane used to hold fear factor.
Shoot
What do you
me.
think?
Shoot me. Mate, Nathan Cleary, your boy, man of the series. We
Yeah,
mentioned it at the top of the show. We all made this thing as media. Has he ever staked this claim in the Origin arena? Some people thought that was absolute crap. Some people genuinely believed it. Man of the series now, instrumental in setting up that big lead in the first half. That strip on Selwyn Cobbo, just really stealing the hearts out of
mm.
Queensland, straight out of their hands, mate. That discussion is finally dead now, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? The owning Origin stuff, like it came from his record in deciders, right? Nathan Cleary's played really good games for New South Wales
Mm.
before this series. There was a game 2 in Perth. I want to say maybe 2022 of the Dome. Can't remember. Where he just was on fire, and I think he's now won 4 Man of the Match awards at Origin level, the same as Andrew Johns, right? So it's interesting to think about that, and I also think that the point was made. One of my mates, I think it was Cameron Mee from NRL.com, or maybe Nick Campton from the ABC. The 3 of us were chatting ahead of Game 3, and it's funny because I think that golden generation of Queensland talent has really warped what everyone's ideas of a good Origin player, what that even entails. Because we have these guys who won 6, 7, 8 series or close to that, and so many of them, and guys in key positions who just had a mortgage on that spot for years and years and years. And now you look at someone like Nathan Cleary, who the fact that he's had so much success at NRL level probably means that people inevitably compare his record there with Origin. but it's kind of like he's on a hiding to nothing because it's like, oh well, you haven't won as many series as Jonathan Thurston. It's like, well, that's pretty hard because New South
Yeah.
Wales hasn't won so many series in a row like Queensland did between 2006 and 2014 or 2013. Um, so yeah, I mean, the owning Origin stuff I think is put to bed now. It was interesting talking to Nathan in the sheds after the game. There's a few of us interviewing him, and I don't know why I was surprised, but I was a little surprised that he wasn't more up and about and jacked about it. Like, he's
Mm,
someone who, when you talk to him, Nathan, he's always very composed. He almost is a little bit like the school prefect, I think is the comparison I make. That he's very responsible. He says the right things. He's very measured, I would say, and he's mindful of his word with his words. He's very thoughtful in that way. So I guess it wasn't that surprising, but talking to him, it was just like talking to Nathan Cleary after any win, really. And it's
mm.
asked him, does it compare to winning grand final? He says, yeah, for sure, it definitely does. And this is something I've been chasing for a long time. But I guess it makes sense that someone who's so process driven and so driven by repetitions and structure, and he's the kind of guy that if he doesn't know how to do something, he'll do it 100 times till he can do it. Um, so I guess it makes sense that maybe someone like that, after an Origin win like that, is just as measured and just as calm and sure excited, but has that same sort of balance that he has after any win. That's certainly the way he came across after that decider. So happy for him. Happy for him as, like you say, as a Panthers guy, as a New South Welshman, but just happy for him because yeah, we can put this stuff to bed now that he was the man who stood up in one of the great wins in Origin history, and I think it's uncontroversial to say even now that that's what that game was.
Yeah, it's good to hear, isn't it? I'm glad I've had a few days to soak this in.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done this podcast on Thursday because it really was like you and I had this chat during the lead into Origin. It was about how we get it,
Mm.
and I was going to ask you about, will the fan base get it? New South Wales love to put shit on Queensland for saying, we get it too, and we like to say that you guys don't, obviously. But the way the
Yeah.
two fan bases approach the game, the way it's supported from pubs to childhood to everything, you made some points about how New South Wales aren't all aboard like Queensland is up north of the border. The Maroons really all do get behind each other. So
Mm.
I did want to ask you about that because I told you my experience, which is in Queensland. You go to a pub on a Wednesday night to watch State of Origin. Everyone's going mad. Everyone's there united. It's like a grand
Yeah.
final. You get 3 of them every year, especially if your team's not doing well. Everyone goes. There's a lot of sick days on Thursday, I imagine, especially North Queensland, mate, where I was based for a few years up in Cairns. Very dusty mornings on a Thursday, especially if they won. If they lost, it was like depression. It was like as soon as that full-time whistle goes, you're really cut. And I can tell you, sitting in a pub on Wednesday night, right, and they were very vocal. Like, it was probably the most passionate New South Wales support that I'd seen just in this little pub in Marrickville. But it killed me, man. Like, it really hurt this one. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was just the overconfidence of coming in thinking that we'd get it
Mm.
done. But it really, really did hurt. It stung. And I didn't even want to face anyone on Thursday. I literally, my line Thursday was we got cheated by the refs. I was like, I'm just going to stick with that
Wow.
line. PR, I'm just going to stick with that line. I don't even want to get into it. Like I said, I've had a few days now to soften my stance, but it really hurt. It really hurt. Um, how do you see that debate of do we get it? Because you was a little bit on my side. You were saying maybe New South Wales doesn't get it. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think there is grounds to say that we don't get it, or at least we don't relate to it in the same way that you guys do. Because I think we're having this chat in Kingscliff, in the car driving somewhere, and I don't know how many New South Wales Origin wins it would take for me to be happier about that than Penrith winning one grand final. Like if someone
Mm,
said like, you know, uh, it'd have to be so many. Like the Panthers are my team, and New South Wales are, I guess, they're my Origin team, and obviously I want to see them win. But I think the NRL fan experience in Sydney is so tied to your specific team. There's so many teams here, and so many rivalries here that between the teams that go so much further back than State of Origin, right? And I'm not even just talking Souths and the Roosters. Pretty much every team that's been around, for like the Panthers, the Eels, Manly, have got a rivalry with another team that goes for much longer. So I guess that's the first thing. I
mm,
think there's something in State of Origin about the underdog spirit. We've spoken about that a little bit before, and it's pretty easy to claim that as Queensland because there's fewer people there, there's fewer NRL teams. There's that Queensland, the Cyclones, the Floods, all that stuff. Like it just the underdog stuff just suits Queensland so much more, and I think the
Mm,
underdog stuff is a big part of state of origin law. So yeah, and I think like because of that underdog stuff, and because Queensland's kind of the younger brother in terms of NRL representation, you guys all kind of band together during finals and things like that. Like again, a point was made that during the series, but I think it was again Nick Hampton, saying that like when your team gets kicked out of the finals, if you're a Broncos fan, you go for the Cowboys if they're still in. That's like I don't think Sydney fans think that way at all. In fact, I think for me it's almost the opposite. Like if the Panthers can't win, then I prefer the Warriors do, or the Raiders, or someone who are an out of town team with maybe a little more to prove, or kind of them against the world. Like I want to see those guys do well. So I guess that, and I also think in Sydney we're a bit of a fickle sporting fan base. It's kind of like I cover the Sydney Kings in the summer and the Big Bash and things like that. And when the Sydney Kings are going well, the crowd's great, and when they're not going well, the crowd's bad, and it fluctuates. We
mm.
don't have as much loyalty towards our sporting teams in Sydney, I don't think, because there's so much going on. It's a friggin' massive city with so much happening that I think Sydney people lose interest when things are going badly. And there's an argument to say that there'll always be a level of interest in Origin. I'm not saying that Sydney people don't care about Origin. I'm just saying that I think we have this fickle mindset in the way we relate to sporting teams here. And there's a little bit, I'm sure, of that with New South Wales. We're happy to bag him. That point was made throughout this series that when New South Wales is going badly, Sydney people and New South Wales people are happy to stick the dagger in, whereas Queenslanders are a little more loyal and don't want to jump the ship so early. So, yeah, I think I've just kind of talked in circles for about 5 minutes on that, but yeah, all I'm saying is that I think there's something to that. At least if it's not that we don't get Origin, it's that we relate to it differently.
No, I understand that too. So you heard it here first, guys. Season ticket holders, New South Wales don't get Origin. Spoken from a true New South Wales Blue. Jasper Bruce confirms it, mate. And I told you, for me, there's only 3 times better than Christmas, and that's Origin 1, 2, and 3. So that's
Yeah.
just that's how we look at it. And like I said, it did really hurt. I want to just look into the future now, heading into next year. Obviously, both coaches' futures up in the air. It doesn't seem like
Mm.
Laurie Daly's going to be there, right? He copped it from everyone. He spoke on it. You were at the presser. You were saying post
Mm.
match about hitting back at some journalists. There was definitely a narrative out there writing him off before game 2. I can tell you what I saw. Everyone wrote off Laurie Daly. It wasn't just journalists. It was like everyone I spoke to. I remember being in the media box even game 1, and after that first half, there was not a single person saying anything nice about Laurie Daly. Like it was like it's over. And fair enough. How times have changed throughout this series.
Yeah.
I was listening to his comments Thursday morning when they bounced him outside the hotel, and he stopped very short of just dropping the mic and saying he's out. He looks like he wanted to say it several times, and then he just sort of held his tongue just a little bit. But no chance, right? But more so than will he be back next year? That's not really the point. Was it unfair? Did he get unfairly treated throughout this series and the belief in him? Because look at it now, he's won an Origin series.
Yeah, I think some of the stuff was unfair, and it's a fine line, right? Like I think everyone in the media, and Laurie Daly works in the media as a radio host. Everyone in the media understands that our role is to ask the questions the fair-minded fan would want to ask if they were in position, and media broadly has a job to hold powerful people to account, like for the state and things like. I don't want to go into media communications 101 from my first year of uni,
Oh,
but
please do.
but
No.
but there is this role within the media that we're here to investigate and challenge the norm, right? That's kind of what the media is supposed to do. We're not PR people. So I think there's definitely a role for robust, fair criticism of the game. And I think Laurie Daly would. I mean, I know that he would say that because he has said that to me, that he believes that's what the media is there to do. And there's that famous line that Brad Fittler said, I think, early in his Origin tenure as New South Wales coach, where he was really liberal with media access because he said, well, if they can't handle the media, then how can they handle state of origin footy? So I think there's an acceptance within the Blues and within origin circles that criticism is part of territory. You don't have big interest in a sporting event without big criticism when it's warranted. Those two things work hand in hand. Just the same that, you're not going to see think pieces so much criticizing the coach of sports that we maybe don't have as high interest in as fans. Those two things work hand in hand, criticism and interest. But I think there were some times this series when maybe it tipped over the edge when maybe it did get a little personal or a little harsh. Um, and I don't want to name names or anything, but yeah, like I think Laurie Daly can feel a little aggrieved about some of the coverage. I think most of it was fair, to be
Yeah.
honest. And I say that with someone who's got a lot of respect for Laurie. Always found him an absolute gentleman to deal with, and a really good man. And I think he would probably say that a lot of it was fair as well. So yeah, I think it's fair to criticize, but no, yeah, I think we got to be careful when we tip over that edge. And as journos, we all have a responsibility to be aware of where that line is and to be ethical. And yeah, I think most of the time we get it right, and maybe sometimes this series it hasn't been gotten right. And Laurie was pretty aggrieved about those few times in the post-match presser. I was sitting there, and the word "stunned" gets thrown around a lot in our line of work, but I actually was pretty stunned
Yeah.
um, about how impassioned he was about that. And yeah, I mean, will the media change? Don't know, but
No.
good on him for good on him for standing up for himself, if that's what he felt like he needed to do.
Yeah, no, that's true. And if anything, mate, the flip side of that was the players really seemed to play for him on that Wednesday night. Like they
Yeah,
really seemed to be fired up. I saw the reactions of Moses and Cleary on the field. Like they were animated. They were in the face. They were getting into that Queensland crowd. And even listening to, I think it was Moses in the hotel the morning after, he basically flat out said, "We did it for Laurie." Like that must have been a really big motivator. And Queensland are so good at getting motivators, right? We've heard lots of things in the past and what they've been able to do. Billy Slater's dad, Tino's dad. There's whatever storyline that you get in leading into a game, you've got an origin. It's in a vacuum. You do need that extra step, and it seems like they really did use that criticism, whether it was Nathan's own game or Laurie's future, and it seemed to work. And that was the flip side of that criticism. For Queensland too, Billy Slater, he's being very mystic, very tight-lipped about going around again. He had some comments on the Sunday Footy Show about his future. He said, "Not sure yet if he'll be back. I think I'll just let the dust settle and sit down with the right people and make that decision. Knowing how much it means to them and what they put into it, it would be hard to walk away from." I'd be shocked if Billy walked away, right?
yeah,
I did say in a podcast during the series, I think it was after game two, thinking that we would win the series. He's going to go down as the greatest, if not the greatest Queensland coach of all time. That was the sort of trajectory. Some people said recency bias. Fair enough. If he had a one, it's 4-1. Now his series record's at 3-2. It's a different story. But he's still been incredible in what he's been able to do. And I think, if anything, this loss is only going to spur him on to go around next year. Would you be shocked if he wasn't the coach in 2027?
the passion is clearly there. I mean, you listen to him for one press conference, and that's very clear. I think the thing maybe is whether he has the time capabilities, right? Like he's a Channel 9 pundit. He runs a horse breeding business. He's got a lot going on, Billy. So whether that becomes a factor, I'm not sure. I don't know Billy Slater personally very well outside of just a few press conferences. So I guess, like you said, he'll make that call after he sits down. I spoke to Ben Eichen, the outgoing QRL CEO, a couple of days before the game, and he was pretty confident that the way things are going, Billy would be the man next year. But I guess a little to work through. Like you say, does that series loss make him more, make him hungrier to come back? Possibly. I think he's someone who has immense passion for this job and this jersey, and for him to go out not as a winner, well, I mean, he was a winner throughout his playing career. He's been a winner mostly in his coaching career. It'd surprise me if that's the note he wanted to end on, to be honest.
The only thing would be that Melbourne Storm coaching gig, I guess, with Craig
Yeah.
Bellamy and his future up in the air. And, that would obviously be you'd think the perfect position for Billy to step into, former player, taking over from Bellamy. But we'll see, mate. Like I said, he's busy. He's on horses. He's doing all types of things, mate. So we never know when he's going to be able to fit it in. Mate, that's Origin. Good luck next year. It's going to be interesting, mate. We'll see. Maybe two new coaches, maybe new coach. Quickly, though, who's your tip
Yeah.
then? New South Wales next coach then? Who would it be?
Oh, gee. Well, there's a few options there. I mean, I think I'd just get Ivan Cleary to juggle it for a year and then hopefully step in full time in 2028. And with my Panthers hat on, I actually think maybe that's not a bad idea because it gives Peter Wallace a couple of dry runs
True.
to lead the team while Ivan's off doing Origin. Maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. Maybe Ivan wants to focus solely on that Panthers gig that last year and giving everything to that in his last year as an NRL coach. That'd be understandable too. It's funny. I think we made this point when we were up in Kingscliff that New South Wales have like this absence of legends who the current crop of players grew up watching, because those guys are all around my age and they grew up watching New South Wales get flogged every year by Queensland. So, Paul Gallen's one guy like who, you know, was a champion of that era, but I think is probably a bit polarizing within the state. I don't think there's the unanimous love for Paul Gallen in New South Wales that there is for Billy Slater in Queensland. I mean, whether you go someone like Boyd Cordner or Matt King, two members of the staff at the moment who are both New South Wales champions of that era, loved by the playing group. We know that Kingy's rated a head coach in waiting at NRL level as well. So maybe one of those guys. But I mean, personally, I think Ivan Cleary, if he wants to do it and if Panthers let him do it, it's probably pretty hard to say no to him.
It's a good shout. As a Queenslander, mate, I would love to see the Johns duo. That's what I would like to
Really?
see. I would like to see Andrew and Maddie jump on board. Same with Andrew with Billy Slater. I mean, he's a very busy man with Channel 9 and everything like
Yeah.
that. But that's what I'd like to see. Maddie has tossed it out there once or twice in the past in the media. So,
The
you
camps
like
would be
that one?
fun. They would they
Yeah.
the boys would have fun, that's for
Uh,
sure.
let's go back to Kingscliff when Matty Johns is in charge, Jasper. We might sink a few there.
Yeah, yeah.
Mate,
Bring some Gatorade. Bring some Hydrolyte for the next morning. Yep.
I'll be ready. Mate, I just want to talk to one of your other boys, former boys, in Jarome Luai, because
Ah,
he's been the one
yes.
that's dominated
Ex-boy.
the last week. Ex-boy, unfortunately. About to be ex-few boys now.
Yeah.
On the way out of the Tigers, they confirmed that he's free to look for 2027 before joining his mega deal in PNG for 2028. I was out there on Wednesday, was it? Yeah, Wednesday.
Mm,
And Jerome was in the cafe. I noticed he wasn't really mingling with the players. He was talking to the cafe while I was
interesting.
waiting for my coffee. He was talking to the barista, which may have slowed things down. But he was out there, and we spoke to Benji. Obviously, this is before any of the whispers had come out. It wasn't until later that day they timed it perfectly. They got Benji out of the way for his pre-game presser before that all broke. But surprising. I mean, I was surprised when I first saw it. Parramatta have since emerged as front runners. I was speaking to Jason Riles the day after it broke. He left the door wide open. I think he made more comments in the post-match as well. They seem to be well and truly in the mix. Parramatta, Tigers will pay $500,000 of his $1.2 million salary to play elsewhere. And the Eels have done it before. We're seeing it right now with Jonah Pezzett off to the Broncos, 1 year stopgap solution. I'd be a bit pissed if I was a Parramatta fan, though. I don't want to keep bringing these players in for 1 year. What's your take on the whole situation?
I think I'd be pissed off if I was Ronald Volkman or Joash Papali. Volkman's
Mm,
had a great year this year, and I think, to be honest, is rightly the first choice 5'8" next to Mitch Moses this year. The Jonah Pezzett stuff hasn't really worked, and whether that, I mean, I know Jonah Pezzett and Jarome Luai are probably two different propositions, but I would be fascinated to know whether the Eels are thinking about this current situation. I mean, it's low stakes with Pezzett, right? It's a year spot there in the halves, hasn't really worked out. That's all right. They've kind of managed their way through it. There's been other stuff with injuries this year that have made that campaign a little bit fraught. But yeah, I mean, I'd be a little disappointed on behalf of Ronald Volkman and Josh Farley if that's what they did. I mean, all signs are looking like they're the likeliest destination. And I think for Luai, like, he went to the Tigers on this hope of being Batman. I think that was the direct quote, of being the guy. But
yeah.
it pretty quickly emerged that that's not really what his skill set is. He's not a game managing halfback. He's not a kick first guy like Nathan Cleary. Someone who is like Nathan Cleary is Mitch Moses, possibly. That traditional seven, who, mind you, does have a really good running game when he wants to use it. But Jarome Luai won 4 premierships playing next to a guy who's a bit like Mitch Moses, you know? And we saw it in the State of Origin the other night when Moses is in charge of the kick first, the kick first, the long kicking playmaking, then the guy next to him is free up to run. And I can see Jarome Luai being a really good fit in that way. You know, whether South Sydney, possibly, like Cody Walker off contract there, don't really know. I don't think he's going back to Penrith. So yeah, I mean, must be pretty confident there's someone out there for him, because there's, yeah, like you say, a release has been agreed
And,
to. So
and he wants to stay in Sydney, so that rules out a lot of clubs. He wants to not move
yeah, he's got
twice
a young
before.
family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't wanna move, north to Queensland and then have to move to PNG twice in, 2 years. That's a lot for children to have to go through.
Mm.
Then it gets too wide. I mean, as a Tigers fan, they have started to slip. They have always had a great first half of the year now, down in 13th on 18 points. They're 6 points out of the 8. They're looking pretty unlikely now. Negative 130 points differential, went down 32-6 to the Wars on the weekend. Uh, Something more going on there with Benji? What's the deal? Why would you let him go when it's still contracted there for another year? If I was a Tigers fan, I just wanted to stick it out, right? We signed him. He was this big, paraded around deal, one of the biggest signings they've had, and now he's just going to go a year early. What's going
Yeah, I
on?
think the thing that's sad is it just hasn't worked though as a signing, has it? And Benji's going to talk to media on Tuesday afternoon, so I guess we'll hear some more from him then. But it it just hasn't worked at all. The
Mm,
Jarome Luai signing, and I say that as a big Jarome Luai defender and fan. That short of a few games here and there, that Titans game earlier in the year sticks out at Leichhardt. I don't really know that this is what the Tigers signed up for. They signed up for a guy who could lead the culture, lead them back to finals, and be a game managing halfback. Well, I mean, the culture may have improved a little bit last year. He and Coruscant as captains like seem to be working, and a good start to this year. But I mean, the, the arse has fallen out of the whole thing, hasn't it? Really, like since he signed in late April, they've won 2 games. One of those was that Titans game I mentioned. The other one was squeaking past Canterbury. When probably in both games, a little lucky. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to what's going on behind the scenes in terms of clashing with Benji or what, but it really is fascinating how quickly this has blown up, and it makes you think if they could have gotten rid of him before June 30, would they have?
mm.
How quickly has this actually descended into the madness that it's become? So yeah, uh, if I was a Tigers fan, I would be pretty devastated with the way this has gone because this guy was supposed to be the cherry on top of the cake. The spoon years are done. We're finally kind of making some headway. This guy was supposed to be here super long term. Not only is he not being here for 5 years, he's being here for a year and a half before getting released. Before talks for release sort of came out, so it's all pretty devastating. And yeah, for a club that's become pretty accustomed to off-field shenanigans and on-field failure, well, what a terrible mixture of both for them to have to you know come to terms with yet again.
Tigers, mate. Must be very hard to be a Tigers fan. I don't know how you
Yeah,
can put yourself through it. It's just like another stab. Just when things are looking good, you just get another sort of kick in the teeth. And
yeah,
yeah, really unfortunate. I do feel bad for their fan base because they do have one of the best fan bases in the NRL. And it's
yeah.
just one thing after another of them. And Benji's going to be really tested. We're going to see a different side of Benji, I think, now. Has been some grace time. But he's going to be the one at the spotlight the next sort of 12 months, a year and a bit to see if they can back this up or if this is going to be like another just a lull period where they get down again. Will be interesting to watch, mate. Now, this section brought to you by our sponsor, National Freight Management. They handle everything from cartons through to pallets nationwide. Gerard and the team do a great job. You can check out more information at nationalfreightmanagement.com.au. Jasper, good or bad for fans? I'll give you a statement. You tell me whether it's good or bad for fans. The Sharks destroying the Dolphins. Heartbreaking 66-0. I couldn't believe that scoreline when I saw it. Now we know that rules out the Dolphins to the premiership, mate, but 66-0, good or bad for fans?
Good. I love a smash up, to be honest. As long as it's not my team getting smashed. I want to see a lot of tries. I want to see people doing freaky stuff. I want to see people pile on the pain and going for the 80. That's good.
Spoken like a true Panthers fan, and speaking on that too, Broncos, Panthers, is that Thursday or Friday night? Jeez, I'm not
It's
looking forward.
is that you going to be out there? 'Cause I think I'm going to go to that.
I do not want to go, in all honesty, unless I'm forced to go for work. I do not want to witness that. It looks like the Broncos are going to have a lot of troops back,
Yeah, that's good.
but geez, you must be thinking there's a cricket score on Friday night or Thursday night, rather.
I'm always scared to play a team that's got Reece Walsh and Payne Haas, to be honest. And
Yeah.
I know that I sound like an NRL player saying something as diplomatic as that, but yeah, like I think I'm fairly confident, but those two guys scare me almost more than any other player in the league.
Well, on that too, then I put the 8 in a row. Rumours that Michael Maguire will be sacked. The reigning premiers looking like they're going to miss the finals. First time since the Tigers in 2005 to not back it up and make the top 8. Is that good or bad for fans, mate?
Michael Maguire getting fired. I think
Well,
bad.
just the Broncos struggles.
Well, I think it's bad seeing these big clubs with big fan bases going badly, right? There are so many Broncos fans out there. We wanna see our teams like them dominating and going well. I'm gonna say that's bad. We don't wanna wish bad results on any teams, Dan.
Oh, you're too nice, man. I opened the door there for you to slam me down again after speaking to you about New South Wales the whole show. No, fair enough. I can go with that. Mate, Daniel Tupou gets a hat trick in his 300th game. I mean, pretty special. I believe the Princess of Tonga, was in the crowd. Pretty cool scenes, mate. That's an easy one, but they won 28-12. Good or bad for fans?
That's good. Love seeing Daniel Tupou do well, an immensely popular character at the Roosters and across the league. To be honest, very softly spoken, very humble. Love to see him go well, and I think he's now scored he's scored tries in more games than any other player. So obviously we know that Alex Johnston's got the try scoring record all up, but Daniel Tupou I think has scored in something like 145 games, which
Is that
is
right?
a record. So that's pretty remarkable.
And that Marky Mark flip pass as well. Geez, you'd love to
Oh
see that he could
gee.
stay in the game, right?
I wish that'd be good for fans. He is just something else, Marky Mark. I don't think I've ever seen a player quite like him.
Pretty exciting Sunday of footy too. 26-24 Rabbitohs over the Knights,
Mm.
19-18 field goal for the Cowboys over the Sea Eagles, and Storm getting out of it against the Titans, mate. Awesome Sunday afternoon for footy. But I did just want to say the TV deal too, since we last recorded, that's all been announced. $5.3 billion, the biggest deal in Australian sports history. They're calling it. What did you make of it? Good or bad for fans?
Good, good. We want money in the game. We want the game being promoted. We want the game thriving financially. I don't really know how much materially this changes things for the fans. You know, there's talk about other broadcasters or things going on streaming services. I think going on Amazon Prime would have been a disaster. Look at limited
Mm.
overs World Cups. We don't want that, right? We want people being able to access our game. This is the greatest game of all for all. It's a working class game at its heart. We don't want people being priced out. KO kind of already does that enough. So I think it's good for fans. We're getting Channel Nine's keeping the free to air broadcast rights. We know that they do a good job across the board mostly. So yeah, no, I think it's good for fans. Happy with it.
Agreed. I think the deal that I read was Amazon made a big play for Friday night footy, and it would have been something like 100 million a year they were going to offer. It sounded like it was seriously entertained, but Volandis said in the end they didn't want to do that multi-streaming service thing, right? Having to get two subscriptions is pretty cooked for any sport. Football's had that problem in Australia where you've had to have like three services to watch all the football you want. So I think it
Yeah.
was a good thing in the end. And yeah, like you said, nothing really is going to change. Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Channel 9. Fox still having every game live. Channel 9 still having the grand final and State of Origin series to themselves. And then Fox will collect that extra game, obviously, when the competition goes to 18 teams. And then what they do with an extra Sunday game or Monday night footy or whatever they want to do, we'll find out. And just finally, mates, it is that time of year. We did talk about State of Origin a lot, but it's wrapped up. I just struggle to care personally about this, but a rep window, mate, good or bad for fans, just in this period where the interest does drop off a bit. Maybe I'm biased. If your team's lost 8 in a row, maybe it drops off anyway. But
Yeah.
what do you reckon? We've spoken about it before ad nauseum. There will obviously be a new draw system when the team does become even again with the new team coming into the competition. A rep window, good or bad for fans?
Um, I don't mind the idea of rep games being played around the same time as State of Origin. I think it was 2022. We had some Pacific tests in Campbelltown. I think coinciding with or it was around game 2 of Origin.
Yeah, they did the
I don't
Sunday
mind.
night one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I think that's cool. I think we get to this point though, and we need to be all systems go for finals. So I think doing a rep window now, it makes it like an afterthought to State of Origin. I think we definitely need to be prioritising the international game. It's an area where rugby league could do with a little bit of a shot in the arm, I would say. So yeah, all for international games. Rep window, don't think that's the answer for this time of year at least.
Fair enough, mate. There you go. Jasper, good luck. It's been a tough slog talking to you, mate. Not because I don't want to hear what you say. You make some great points. But as a New South Welshman and as a Panthers fan, geez, it could be a double week for you against me. I won't be able to show my face around you for the next month. But good luck on Thursday night. What's your tip, mate? Give a prediction for Thursday night.
Panthers 66 plus. We're going to get another 66 nil.
Jasper, thanks for coming on your second and final time on Season Ticket Holders. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. You do a great work there with AAP, mate. It was a pleasure spending some time with you up there in Origin Camp at Kingscliff. You do an amazing job, so everyone go and check out his work. Look out for his byline, Jasper Bruce. Thank you very much for joining us once again on Season Ticket Holders.
Thanks for having me, great man. Always a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. And thank you, everyone, for all your support and love. Would love some support on Spotify. Apple gives a 5-star rating. It would be a big help. As always, take care, guys. We'll talk to you soon.